Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together, we have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
This episode is brought to you by ChatGPT. Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. Have you guys heard about ChatGPT work? It's the new way to use ChatGPT for bigger multi-step projects. And when you need more than just answers, give ChatGPT work access to your apps and files, and it can create real work documents like spreadsheets, slides, and structured reports. Get started at chatgpt.com by selecting work mode, available on Plus and Pro plans.
Welcome back to another edition of the Disney Dish Podcast with Jim Hill. It's me, Testa, and this is our show for the week of Thursday, August 17th, 2026. On the show today, we're at D23 with News of the Week recaps. Then in our main segment, Jim gives us a bit of the history of the city of Anaheim that we are in right now. Let's get started by bringing in the man who still remembers all of the moral lessons those nuns beat into him years ago. It's Mr. Jim Hill. Jim, how's it going?
Ah, Len, the good sisters at Our Lady of Perpetual Disappointment. That was a church my family attended in Maynard. It's a teeny tiny mill town that I grew up in central Massachusetts, and famous for once having more bars per square mile than Manhattan.
Wow.
What was interesting about that, Len, is that happened during the Prohibition, the 30s. So all of these places were speakeasies. So you'd walk down the main street of Maynard, and all of these businesses would look legit from the outside. But if you knew the password or the secret handshake, you could get inside and score some hooch. And by the way, Maynard was and still is surrounded by apple orchards. So this stuff was all Applejack, hard cider.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, to wrap up the story, when I was growing up, Prohibition had been over for 40 years at that point. But what was interesting is that, in various buildings around town, there was still evidence of Maynard's nefarious past. And in fact, if you went downstairs at Anderson's bike shop, in the basement, there was this beautiful oak bar that ran the back of the building. And this evidently was the favorite watering hole of one Babe Ruth.
Really?
He had his training camp one town over in Stowe, Massachusetts. And evidently, whenever Babe developed a thirst, he would drive on over to Maynard, knock on Mr. Anderson's door and say, "I need a basket for my bike." And it was like,
I love that he doesn't even pretend to ride a bike over there.
No. He's, in a giant car. And it's like, well, absolutely, Babe. Let's go down to the basement and see what I've got in stock.
I've got some models for you to select from.
There we go. So anyway, as Mr. Testa likes to say, true story, or at least that's what the old timers in Maynard used to tell me.
I love it. It's fantastic. All right, Jim, let's do a quick shout out to our subscribers. Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the show over at patreon.com/JimHillMedia, including Jay, Adam Edelstein, Kyle Knapp, Linda Braley, Brian Fleming, and Donald DeVoe. Jim, this is the Disney Consumer Products team developing new souvenirs for Piston Peak in Frontierland, including the off-road knobby tire backpack, an authentic 17-inch steel-belted radial tire with denim pockets and a chain-link shoulder strap. With tons of carrying capacity and a 70,000-mile warranty, it'll last your family for many years in the parks. True story.
Very appropriate for the news that just broke yesterday, which we'll get to later in the show.
Fantastic. All right, Jim, and on to the news. Folks, the Disney Dish News is sponsored by BeOurGuestVacations.com from our friends at DVCRentalStore.com. It's officially Halloween, and look, you've spent enough years handing out candy to other people. It's time for other people to hand candy to you. This happens at Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween Party, and the folks at BeOurGuestVacations.com are ready to help you plan that trip now. So visit BeOurGuestVacations.com and get your costumes later. All right, Jim, on to the news. There are a couple of interesting patents from Disney that were published this week that have, we think, to do with some of the upcoming rides. And the first one I want to talk about is this thing called Elevation Change Illusion through Set Design. and it makes guests in a ride vehicle that is riding along on a flat surface feel like they're rising or falling, even if they're on that totally flat surface. What do you think of this, Jim?
I love when you take a classic illusion projection service, and it's always intriguing when you can take just to subtle changes make people think that, I'm on a steep surface or I'm on a high point looking down. So, and when you think about, wouldn't it be cool if you could pull off, say, an Expedition Everest like illusion without having to put on all of that steel and concrete? No, this would be cool.
Fantastic. And then, so I was talking to Christina about this, because it looks like in the patent design, the ride image, the images in the patent, which I've put in the show notes, it looks like that is for the Encanto ride, right?
I'm gonna say that is a lot of casita style architecture, but again, this is the illustration for the patent. That doesn't necessarily mean that's actually what they're going to do for the ride. But
I think that's going to be the theme that we talk about for the next couple of weeks. Just because it's in a patent doesn't mean it's going to go into a park.
There we go.
But here's the interesting thing, and this is why I think it's relevant for Encanto. We know that from the story. That it's Antonio. It's the day Antonio gets his gift.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so my question was, are there any other characters in the story who get a gift that would be linked to something shaking, right, going up and down, left or right, or whatever? Mm-hmm. And so I asked Christina, who's seen the movie Encanto 100 times, and she said that, in fact, yes, that is part of the story, that it is the preamble to Mirabelle getting her gift. She was going to become the new matriarch. Also, the movie, she's the only one not to get a door or a gift. But then this ruckus happens, right? And she gets the front door because she's the protector of all of the gifts. I'm not saying it's for the Encanto ride.
No, but that would be a brilliant use of it. And remember, the other thing to take into consideration here is, yes, Tropical Americas at Disney's Animal Kingdom is getting this Encanto attraction, but that doesn't necessarily mean that other parks aren't going to get an Encanto ride as well. So,
right, you can see this sort of thing applying to everything from Encanto to, frankly, Big Thunder Mountain could have used an effect like this, right?
Oh yeah. No. That's it. Again, it looks like a killer technology. Can't wait to see it finally used in the parks.
Fantastic. Jim, some other news from Walt Disney World. The Mickey's Not So Scary Halloween parties for October 29th and August 21st have now sold out. So either end of the Halloween period. What do you make of that?
Well, again, this has just become a tradition in Central Florida, coupled with the fact that folks who come to town, I think you've talked about this over on Touring Plans, the notion of you get this great party, but at the same time, you have the ability to get in so many rides over the course of the party. A lot of folks just feel like, if I'm there at Walt Disney World vacationing at this time, I got to do it. It is intriguing to me, though. It's the parties at both ends that have sold out and still have availabilities in late
September.
Wow.
And early October. Yeah. I imagine those will fill up too, but I think people now are saying, obviously the ones for the next couple of weeks in August are a priority for people who are going then. But also people who are planning out around Halloween know that that's a super popular time. So you kind of understand,
that it is.
Yeah, exactly.
That it is.
Jim, I want to also talk a little bit about, there was another infrastructure issue at Wilderness Lodge last week. This one was a water outage at Boulder Ridge, which required moving guests. I guess the water was out, or at least low pressure, for more than a day, right? My question here, Jim, is this entire resort built on a Native American burial ground, or is it just certain parts of it? Because I think at this point we need to know.
Yeah, it's weird that these have been happening repeatedly at Wilderness Lodge. And again, when you think about how it was built in phases, we got the original building in 94, the first of the DVCs in 99, 2000, and then Boulder Copper Creek what is that, 2017 or thereabouts? So
Right.
they, forgive me for using this euphemism, but they went back to the well a number of times when it came to hooking this place up to, Disney's, plumbing system. So I would imagine it is kind of convoluted, difficult to maintain, and this is why we're dealing with this issue over and over again.
Yeah, I mean, it's summer, so it's a difficult time for that to happen. But I'm guessing this is going to spur Disney to check the infrastructure at every other resort. So hopefully this doesn't happen again.
Sure.
Other bit of news last week, Jim, is that Disney's moving forward with a TV series based on Spaceship Earth. And I promise you guys, I am not mixing my prescription medication when I say that. Jim.
Yeah.
Spaceship Earth as a TV series.
Yes. Have you heard the log line on this?
No, I've heard nothing on it. I had to read it twice to make sure I wasn't hallucinating.
Okay. First of all, folks, this is legit. And evidently the conceit of it is a bunch of teenagers from today are contacted by a bunch of teenagers from the future where there has been this calamity. And the notion is that they have to travel to the past, and they need the help of these teenagers from today to fix something that will eventually make Earth unlivable. So it's a sci-fi adventure, will involve time travel. So
all right, so are they going into the strictly into the past, or Jim, are they going into the future as well?
Evidently, it is this is Michael Waldron, who, by the way, heavy hitter. This is the guy who wrote Avengers Doomsday, Loki.
Okay.
But evidently it's a wild time travel adventure that will do past, present, future, and all of the ramifications there. Now, just a word of caution. They're moving forward with this idea, but it's worth noting that, I think you and I talked about this, Len, as far back as 2013, 2014. We had that pilot for the Big Thunder series, which was going to be, sort of a Western meets the X-Files thing. And they shot the pilot. ABC looked at it and went, horses. It's like, that looks expensive. So
exactly.
Just because it goes, or gets greenlit, doesn't mean it's necessarily going to go. I mean, just today in the trades, there's news of a Mighty Morphing Power Ranger project that was supposed to go to Disney Plus that allegedly had been greenlit and just got shut down.
That's tragic news. I would have enjoyed a Power Rangers TV series, if only for the costumes, right?
There you go.
All right, Jim, last little bit of news, and this one is more of an industry thing. Bob Chapek, former Disney CEO, has a book coming out next month called Behind the Castle Walls. Two things I want to note here. One, the publisher is not Disney. And two, the publisher says the book will cover Chapek's early years, the first few weeks of his tenure as CEO when we all got hit with the COVID pandemic, and then various aspects of his time as CEO. What do you make of this book, Jim?
It makes me kind of sad for both Bob Iger and Josh D'Amaro, because there's already rumors out there that some scores are going to be settled and some stories are going to be shared. And, wow. And remember, a lot of stuff happened, during Bob Chapek's, time. And, as you just mentioned, remember that moment where Bob Iger effectively threw the car keys at Bob Chapek as COVID was coming over the hill, the effective tag, you're it, you're the CEO.
That would be a great time for me to retire.
There you go. So, I gotta ask, you pre-ordered your copy, right?
Absolutely.
There you go.
And the funny thing is coincidentally, you and I shared a positive Bob Chapek story yesterday when we were planning out our time at D23.
Yes,
and he's never going to get credit for it, and I'm not going to say what it is because it may be in his book.
Okay,
but yeah, it's an interesting week for Bob Chapek.
Absolutely, no. Very much looking forward to again Behind the Castle Walls, and it's coming out soon, right? It's September, is that right? September, yeah. I think it comes out literally within the same 2-week period that Bob Iger's biography or memoir comes out. Is the next one in the series. The unauthorized Bob Iger book by Robbie Whelan comes out, and now the Bob Chapek thing. So we're going to learn a lot about what it means to be Disney CEO at the end of September. Oh boy! Okay, can't wait. Getting out my reading glasses. All right, folks, let's move on to the main.
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
This episode is brought to you by ChatGPT. Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. Have you guys heard about ChatGPT work? It's the new way to use ChatGPT for bigger multi-step projects. And when you need more than just answers, give ChatGPT work access to your apps and files, and it can create real work documents like spreadsheets, slides, and structured reports. Get started at chatgpt.com by selecting work mode, available on Plus and Pro plans.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
Segment of our story. Jim, you have compiled a short history of the city of Anaheim, the land on which we are walking around right now, right? This is true. Well, I figured, again, Len and I are out here, to cover the D23 Expo. And again, we're here in that place that Harrison Buzz Price and his team from Economic Research Associates, which, by the way, Len, I think, I got to talk with Buzz. You would have loved this guy. He, just like you, was a numbers guy. And, straight out of Stanford University, he set up his consulting company. Again, Economic Research Associates, ERA. And when he came on the scene, it was definitely a new era, because Buzz, with his love of numbers and statistics, well, he poured over hundreds of public documents that then provided projections of population growth around the Los Angeles area in the late 1950s, early 1960s. He also he took into account where the freeway construction plans that were already in the works for Southern California were going to go, and he looked at weather patterns. We're talking temperature variability, local real estate prices, also real estate availability. Not to mention smog, which was already starting at that time to be a problem in LA. But anyway, he takes all these factors, scours the 5 counties that are directly outside of Los Angeles. And once he does that, burrows through the data, he comes back to Walt and says, I found the perfect place for your family fun park. It's a bunch of orange groves and walnut farms out in Anaheim. It's just to the east of Knott's. And for me, what's fascinating about this is that Anaheim, at this point, is not even 100 years old. It had been settled back in 1857. And again, Len, this area had kind of a weird beginning. There were 50 German families who immigrated as a group to the United States. And they make their way to California. Which, by the way, had only become a state, America's 31st, in 1850. Anyway, all of these Germans, once they get out here, they pool their money, and they then collectively buy over 1,100 acres of land, where they now plant thousands of grapevines. Leave it to the Germans to prioritize wine production when they get somewhere. I love it.
Well, but that's what, to me, again, we've always been told, walnut trees, orange groves. It's like, no.
Orange groves. Yeah.
No, they set up a communal vineyard, which, by the way, for 15 years was hugely successful. I mean, this area, Anaheim, at that time was California's leading wine producer, which when you think that they've been making wine up in Napa for 170 years now, it's kind of mind-blowing. But it was Anaheim. Anaheim was number one in California for a while until a devastating root rot swept through the region in the 1880s and effectively took out all of the grapevines that these Germans were using to make wine. And so these 50 German families, and I guess, again, we just to nail home this German connection, the name Anaheim has ties to Germany. The Anna part of the name comes from, the Santa Ana River, whereas the Heim part of Anaheim, that's actually the German word for homeland. So
really, I didn't know that.
Anaheim means our home by the river.
Oh, I love that. It's the most American thing ever, too, by the way, to combine a Spanish name and a German name and make it American.
There we go.
Okay.
Enjoy your Wiener Schnitzel and burrito. But anyway,
oh my God, why don't we have that?
Okay, go ahead. I know somebody from Disney Food Service is listening. Get on that.
I'm just saying. Go ahead, World Showcase. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so these Germans, they'd had nearly 20 years of prosperity in the region at this point. They weren't going to let a little thing like root rot stop them. So they believed strongly in the agricultural opportunities that this region of Southern California offered. So they just needed a hardier crop. So also, it's like, no, we're not going to be a one-trick pony anymore. That we're not going to rely on a single crop. We're going to go with two. So starting in the late 1880s, early 1990s, they planted orange groves and walnut trees.
There you go.
Okay. And as it turns out, very smart time to get into citrus production. The Union Pacific and Santa Fe railroads were making great inroads to this part of California at that time, which meant that fruit that had just been picked and walnuts that had just been harvested could now travel by train and just days later be available for purchase out on the East Coast. And, now mind you, this fruit that has just been picked, still needs to be packed for transport, which now brings us to the Anaheim Packing District. And, kind of like how Walt had Disneyland built right alongside the path that Interstate 5 was going to travel, as it wound from LA down to San Diego. Well, these industrious Germans, noticed the railroad and realized, how important it was going to be to the growing success of their orange and walnut business. So when they learned that the Southern Pacific was planning on installing a new fuel stop and repair hub in Anaheim, they quickly bought a large piece of land directly adjacent to this new Southern Pacific facility and built the Anaheim Packing House. And Len, this was a massive facility. I mean, 42,000 square feet, where hundreds of men each day, they washed, graded, and packed in wooden crates tens of thousands of pieces of fruit that had just been picked, and which then made it possible for truly fresh produce to travel back east within days.
Wow.
And for decades, the Anaheim Packing District was this bustling center of commerce for Orange County. But then, in the 1920s, 1930s, state of Florida starts to get serious about the citrus business. And the oranges that were being grown down there, well, they managed to make it to the all-important East Coast markets a few days faster than the ones grown out in California.
Yeah. Okay. So Florida to New York is faster than California to New York.
There we go. Okay. All right. And as we head into the late 30s, early 40s, demand for the oranges and walnuts grown in and around Anaheim gradually lessens, which then impacts real estate prices in this part of Southern California, which is what Buzz Price noticed, which is why Walt Disney was able to buy the whole 160 acres of farmland, all of those walnut groves and orange trees, where Disneyland stands today, for just $879,000, which, by the way, folks, if you do the math, that's on average under $5,500 per acre.
Okay, but in 1955 money, that's like $11 bajillion today.
No, totally.
$5,500 an acre in 1950s money is still a lot of money.
Yeah, absolutely. But on the other hand, if you take into consideration in the same window of time, the starting price for a piece of undeveloped land in or around Los Angeles County, Len, that's $10,000. I mean, there's a reason Walt went east, so to speak, that he didn't build. Remember, he was originally going to build Disneyland across the street from the studio, but it was just, wow, I can't get enough land and, for what I want to do. And more to the point, when land becomes available, it's too expensive. So that's why Buzz found this farmland.
Here's what, that's super important. Here's what I find fascinating. And I didn't know this till you just started the story. So this is my idea. The bottom of the California citrus market is the 30s, 40s, 50s, right when Walt buys the land, probably as cheap as it's ever going to be. But then remember, in the 60s and 70s, that's when the California population boom started. Had they just held out 10 more years, the price of that land would have been vastly more expensive. So you gotta love so Walt here has a little bit of lucky timing.
Oh, absolutely. No, he
hits the bottom of the market.
He did. And it's interesting you bring that up, because again, you're not wrong about the population expanding out toward the growth of the the suburban neighborhoods around the park that exist today. But again, Disneyland opens in July of 1955, and this is when Anaheim gradually begins to switch from being an agriculturally based community to a town that now is mostly making its money off of tourism related things. And as a result, the Anaheim Packing District, that's what this industrial area that had been built next to the Southern Pacific Fuel Point and Rehab thing, eventually became named. It slowly goes out of business. But in the middle of this thing, there's this central building, the packing house, and it's this beautiful structure done in the Mission Revival style, and it's still standing. And again, a proud reminder of the time. If you had a glass of orange juice on your breakfast table, chances are that the piece of fruit that had been squeezed to make that juice had passed through this very same citrus packing facility. And so, Anaheim it's a forward-looking community. So there were a number of folks in town who were like, look, let's just tear that thing down. There are better uses for that structure. But for other folks in Anaheim, the very idea that you're going to flatten this beautiful Mission Revival building, no, don't be an idiot.
Yeah.
So, and again, remember, this story starts with 50 German families, and the kids of those Germans raised their kids in the same community, and they didn't just cherish their history. They're also, resourceful folks. So finally somebody in the local community is like, well, hang on. We used to pack fruit in the Anaheim Packing House. And, you ever been to Faneuil Hall in Boston, where they took an old building and then turned it into, like a food hall where, you had like 30 different places selling food? And
I was going to say, Anaheim Packing House sounds like a wonderful name for a restaurant. Why don't we do that?
Well, no, this is exactly what happened. And so finally it's look, why don't we, it's a beautiful building, just like Faneuil Hall. Why don't we just take this thing and restore it and make it a place where we can serve food and give it a new purpose? It's something that, that would appeal to the tourists and at the same time could serve the local community. So now, all right, it takes a while to get enough people on board with this project, but finally, City of Anaheim buys the building, takes it off the market, so some developer doesn't pull it down and turn it into a strip mall. That happens in 2000, Len.
Wait, so the city gets involved here?
City.
Oh, interesting.
Now, again, because of that, this moves a little slower than it perhaps might have in the private sector. But they have to find the money to do the restoration. They have to find the right developer who has a decent vision for the structure. This turns out to be LAB Holding. And they come forward with their idea. Well, I mean, first of all, obviously they have to stabilize this decaying structure, and then they take kind of a Hippocratic oath to restoring the Anaheim Packing House. I mean, they want to do no harm to the charm and the style of the original building, which again, in Mission Revival Star. But at the same time, you're going to change this into a full food hall. You got to make some bold choices. And one of the choices included ripping out the entire middle floor of the building, which then really opened it up, created a dramatic central atrium.
Fair.
Anyway, the finished product, which by the way, kept its original name, Len. So you're right. The Anaheim Packing House, great name for a restaurant. For a food hall, excuse me, opened to the public back in May of 2014 and became the city's first modern food hall, a haven for Orange County locals, not to mention Disneyland visitors who had their fill of churros.
Let me just say, Jim, that the fact that they took the name Anaheim Packing House and kept it is an example of sometimes the right answer is directly in front of you.
Yes.
And
Hello?
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together. We have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.
This episode is brought to you by ChatGPT. Hey, it's Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast. Have you guys heard about ChatGPT work? It's the new way to use ChatGPT for bigger multi-step projects. And when you need more than just answers, give ChatGPT work access to your apps and files, and it can create real work documents like spreadsheets, slides, and structured reports. Get started at chatgpt.com by selecting work mode, available on Plus and Pro plans.
The perfect lunch combo. That first bite of your favorite sub, followed by ice-cold Pepsi. Add a couple of friends, and now that's next level. Suddenly, the laughs get louder, the stories keep flowing, and the food tastes better. Because Pepsi brings out more flavor, more fun, and more of the moment. Food deserves Pepsi. Grab a Pepsi Zero Sugar today.
that, kids, is what we call foreshadowing for our next show.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. All right, go ahead. All right, as we wrap up here, I want to give credit where credit is due. It was veteran Disney PR executive Tim O'Day, who, by the way, recently partnered with Disney legend Martha Blanding to write that great new book, Groundbreaking Magic, A Black Woman's Journey Through the Happiest Place on Earth. Tim was the guy who told me the true history of Anaheim. In fact, he once took Nancy and I down to the packing district while this project was in motion, and pointed out the building, pointed out what they were doing. And I've recently been down there and to see what it was like and what it's like today with live music and all of these places now around the packing house, which also sell great food.
Jim, let me just say right now, and that was great that Tim did that, and I'm really happy. Going forward, if an executive from the Disney company offers you a ride to go see an abandoned warehouse, I need you to swallow an air tag so that we can find your body. Continue with your story. Go ahead.
Hadn't even thought of that. So Anyway, and as we close up here, by the way, if you want to have the trendy new thing at the Anaheim Packing District Plan, it's a crookie. You have to go to the La Parfait Paris. And this thing, Len, it's half a croissant, half a cookie. I mean, mind you, when you eat it, you are just covered with little flaky things, but it is delicious. So
I'm sold already. Let's go find it.
Okay. But again, just, a note to all the folks who are here at the, for the D23 Expo, just like, yes, it's important to get in there and see that stuff. Likewise to get over the parks, but take some time, go visit real Anaheim while you're here. It is definitely worth checking out.
That's a great story, Jim, and I learned a bunch of things here. I'm sure our listeners did too. What a great little segment. That was fantastic.
Glad to do it. And again, now I want a crookie.
Exactly. We're going to go look for it now. I haven't had breakfast yet either. All right, folks, that's going to do it for our show. You can help support our show by subscribing over at patreon.com/JimHaleMedia, where our latest exclusive show is a look at It's a Small World around the world. And there's a link in the show notes. Also, this week, we have a show that is our predictions for what we're going to hear at D23. If you're listening to this after the announcements, you can go back and grade us on what we got right. Mm-hmm. Occasional show guest and former Disney Imagineer Jim Scholl hosts his own YouTube channel. The name is Disney Journey with Jim Scholl. In recent videos, Jim shares his stories about the new Coco ride and a possible new Matterhorn. Click on the link in the show notes to watch Disney Journey with Jim Scholl. On next week's show, it's the anniversary of Hollywood Studios' Ewok Village, which opened ahead of Star Tours, and Jim will give us that story and a later episode in which Jim will continue the history of Disney's family suites. You can find more of Jim at JimHaleMedia.com and more of me, Len, at TouringPlans.com. Also check out The Case For with Chris Cox, a podcast where Chris, Jim, and I debate one theme park topic at a time, and you get to vote on who's right. Were produced spectacularly by Eric Kersey and David Gray, welcoming fiber enthusiasts from all the islands and the rest of the world as they make their own rugs at the Oahu Rug Tufting Workshops, running every Sunday from now through the end of the year at the Craft Store's Tufting Studio and Workshops. That's on River Street in beautiful downtown Honolulu, Hawaii. While Eric and David are doing that, please go into iTunes and rate our show and tell us what you'd like to hear next. For Jim, this is Len. We will see you on the next show.